Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, September 15th, 2019. This is episode 1627. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash connects you to your favorite restaurants in your city. Get $5 off your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code TechGuy. And by Zapier. Zapier connects all your business software and handles the work for you, so you can focus on what matters most. Right now through November, go to Zapier.com/TechGuy for your free 14-day trial. And by FreshBooks, the #1 accounting software in the cloud for self-employed professionals and their teams. You'll make confident business decisions with FreshBooks. Try it free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/TechGuy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Yes, it's time to talk computers. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Shh, Leo, quiet. It's Sunday morning. It's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still reach us. You just have to use Skype out or something like that. And it should be toll free because, well, it just should be. Because it should be. Because I say so. 8888 Ask Leo. There is a website. And that's a good thing to have because you don't have to write anything down. It's techguylabs.com. Techguylabs.com. And that's free. There's no sign up. There's just nothing to it. You just go right in there. Every show is there. All 1,627 episodes in our continuing saga to save the world one computer at a time. And by computer, I mean anything with a chip in it. techguylabs.com. We also put audio and video of the show there after the fact, so if you miss a show, you can find it. And you can also go directly to a question and answer and see the text, listen to the audio, watch the video, whatever you do. And by the way, you can always add your thoughts. In fact, I much appreciate it if you do. That's how it becomes a better and better site for everybody. techguylabs.com. Let's see. What's in the news? Well, Apple announced a few phones, a new watch, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade Plus. They kind of had a busy day on Tuesday. They really did. They did a lot of stuff. And I think they didn't even announce everything they've got for the fall. I suspect there'll be another Apple announcement. So if you have, they did announce an iPad, but it was the low end, the most inexpensive iPad, the $329 version. And I think there's pretty good evidence. There's at least 2 more coming this year because they submitted several part numbers to the European FCC. And we've seen those. So we know there's other models in the works. We also have heard strong rumors there's going to be a new MacBook Pro. And Apple's already said they're going to announce a Mac Pro or or taking orders for or something, a hugely expensive Mac Pro this year. So I think that's all together. That's enough for another event. Why not? Let's do it again. About a month. It's one of the reasons Apple built this beautiful facility, the Steve Jobs Theater in their new Apple campus, because they didn't want to have to book auditorium time. For a couple of reasons. One, because you got to work around other people. Oh, Apple hates that. But 2, because then it tells everybody, oh, yeah, Apple's got an event in October. They booked the McHenry Theater or whatever. So now we just don't know. Steve Jobs Theater, it's a closed book. No one knows. Ooh. I think we'll see it in October. And the reason I mention that is unless you know you want that $329 iPad, it'd probably be foolish at this point to buy any Mac or any iPad devices. Now's the time to buy an iPhone, though, if so you're hankering. And I think Apple thinks, and I think everybody probably agrees, that the iPhone to get is not the most expensive iPhone Pro Max, but the less expensive kind of the Goldilocks iPhone, the one right in the middle. They're still selling iPhone 8s. They're even still selling iPhone SEs. They're still so they have a broad range going down, I think, to $399. But right there in the sweet spot, it's $699. The iPhone 11. It goes to 11. It is it's their successor to the 10R, which they were proud to say, the best-selling iPhone of the year last year, and I think it's going to be that way this year. So iPhone 11 is the one to look at. I, of course, because I'm just built that way, bought the top of the line. What else? iPhone Pro 10. What is it? 11. So many letters, so many words. 11 Pro Max. And $1,449 later, I guess I'll be getting it on Friday. I can't wait to play with the camera. The camera does one thing that's really weird, and I don't think anybody really cares about this except filmmakers, movie makers, YouTubers, people like me who do interviews. It can shoot from multiple lenses at the same time. It's fast. That's how fast it is and how fast its memory is it can have at least 2, maybe more lenses at the same time recording. So you can have the selfie cam, the camera facing you, and the camera facing out at the same time. And then you get 2 different videos, which you can edit to look like you had a 2-camera shoot, which you did with one phone. Wow, that's cool. I'm telling you, these iPhones are unparalleled in video. They've got great competition from a number of companies for the stills, but boy, their video is good. Their video is nice. I'm thinking, the big Consumer Electronics Show, CES, comes up in January. And I'm thinking, we used to, my podcast network, This Week in Tech, Twit, has covered it in many ways. We've had a booth there. We've had reporters there. We've done different things. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it's this time, it's just me and my trusty iPhone. I'm going to go, I bet you I can, using the new iPhone, get great video, booth after booth after booth, just make little 2-minute videos of all the most interesting products, put those up on the internet. I think that's probably as close to going to the show yourself, right? See what's there, see the booths, see the scene, maybe get a couple of party videos, because there's parties, there's concerts, there's all sorts of evening events as well. It's a gathering of the tribe of the 180,000 consumer electronics dealers. That's who it was originally planned for, but also media and just people who really care enough to go. So that'll be fun. I think that'll be fun. I think I'm looking, maybe the Pixel 4, Google's phone should come out next month. Maybe the Pixel 4 will be the one, but I think it'll be kind of fun. So I'll try that. I'll tell you when I do it. I'll tell you where to get that stuff. It'll be on our website. Twit, TWIT, is the podcast network, and the website's twit.tv, because it's audio and video. I love this. Somebody has invented a multifunctional laser tripwire they call Day Tripper. It's a little USB device. You plug it in the USB port, and it sends an invisible light across a doorway, so that if you're playing a game in the office, you could put this thing up, and the minute the boss comes, down the hall, you can have the little Day Tripper there. Boom! It changes it to that spreadsheet. Remember we used to have the boss key? Do you remember that? Where you'd be playing a video game at work. I shouldn't say this because I have employees. I should not be telling them this. You're playing a video game at work, and the boss is coming. You can hit one key, and boom, it looks like a spreadsheet. Ooh, is that cool? In fact, there were games that had that built in, the boss key. This is even better because you don't even have to pay attention. It's a tripwire. It can hide all your windows, lock your computer, execute a custom script. Human ingenuity will never cease to amaze me. And it's not all in the interest of high commerce, making the next billion-dollar unicorn. No. No. There is something in the new iPhone I think is going to end up being interesting. And they didn't talk about it. We haven't really talked about it, but I think watch for, there's something, they call it a U1 chip in there, which is an additional processor which adds supports for an inertial measurement unit, Bluetooth 5.1, ultra-wideband, and a camera, motion capture, optical tracking. It is a massive sensor, and it seems to me that this is tied in with something Apple didn't announce, but I think will, which is an Apple tag, a kind of like, the Tile or the tracker, those little Bluetooth things you put on your keys so you won't lose them. Apple's going to do this and with this chip, they're going to do it better than anybody. You'll be able to point your phone, it'll go boop, 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 boop. If the keys are under the couch, beep, 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 beep. You'll know exactly where it is. You point your phone at it. You'll go get it. It'll even have augmented reality. But there's even more. Yes, there's more. I think the real reason Apple's putting this in, Apple's been supporting for years now something called iBeacon. The idea, this is where the money is, you walk into a store and ads for things that you're next to pop up. See those Levi's over there? Beep, 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 beep. 50% off. I think that. Watch. Stay tuned. Apple did not announce it, but we know it's in there. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Let's talk high tech. You and me. This is an endless source of amusement, the technology industry. What they think we want, what they make, what we want, nonstop fun. 8888 Ask Leo. Kim Schaffer's back from Bali. She's a beautiful tan. And she'll be answering your calls in just a moment. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. La, 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 la. I'm hungry. I want lunch. You know why? I was thinking about this because of our fine sponsor for today's podcast, DoorDash. Do you know about DoorDash? Slices on your sofa. Well, not actually slices in your belly while you're on the sofa. DoorDash connects you to your favorite restaurants in your town. All the big chains that you know and love, like Chipotle and the Cheesecake Factory and Wendy's, they'll bring it to your door. But also the best restaurants in your town, the ones no one knows about. Your secret restaurant, they've got that too. 340,000 amazing restaurants in 3,300 cities all over the U.S. and Canada, every state. In fact, DoorDash is almost certainly in your town. Go to your phone and download the DoorDash app. Look in the App Store. DoorDash, DoorDash. And if you use the offer code TechGuy on your first order of $15 or more, we're going to give you $5 off. Just a way to get you to try it. You'll be amazed when you look at the DoorDash app at all the restaurants. You didn't even know that you could get their food in your house. You're tired. You don't want to get all dressed up, all gussied up, go to the restaurant. You just use the DoorDash app on your phone, and you've got slices on your sofa or slices in your tummy while you're sitting on your sofa. Just get the DoorDash app on your phone. Use the offer code TechGuy, $5 off your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code TechGuy. Yeah, you know what? You could have slices on your sofa too. DoorDash. Get the DoorDash app on your phone. Use the offer code TechGuy, $5 off your first order of $15 or more. We love DoorDash. We love our Dashers. And you will too. DoorDash. Ladies and gentlemen, from the beautiful city of Ballyhigh, the fully tanned, rested, and ready to answer the phones, Kimmy Schaffer. Hello.
Rested is not the right word.
Did you not rest on vacation?
Oh, on vacation I did, but the 27 hours of travel back.
That's how long it took to fly back? 27 hours?
4 airports, 3 flights, and 27
Cow.
hours.
That is exhausting.
So I haven't
When'd you get back?
properly slept. Oh, Wednesday night.
And you're still tired?
And I'm still tired.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you jet lagged? I can't remember what the Bali time zone is.
They are 15 hours ahead of us.
Oh, so you're also lagged.
I don't know what time of day or what day
That's almost as bad as it can get, right? I mean, the worst would be 12. Then you'd be complete reverse.
Yeah.
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 So it's really, right now, it's 8 o'clock at night. No. 8 in the morning? What time? 11, I don't even know.
12, 1, 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
22 a.m.
Good night. The fast asleep Kimmy Schaffer.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to.
You did a good job, though. I see. You've been answering the phones since the wee hours of the morning.
Well, it is the wee hours
Valley
of the morning
time.
For me. Hector in Napoleon, Ohio, has a camcorder that's giving him an obnoxious error message.
There's a new city for me.
A Napoleon?
Napoleon.
Yeah.
Huh. Hey, Hector. Thank you, Kimmy. Hey, Hector. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
I'm great. Is it named after the Emperor of France, Napoleon?
It is.
Oh.
Yep.
Did he conquer Napoleon, Ohio?
Yeah. It's about, I don't know, 40 minutes southwest of Toledo.
Nice. I like that area.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
Southwest, Southern Ohio is beautiful. I've spent some time in Southeast Ohio.
We're in Northwest.
Northwest. Okay. Southwest of Toledo, but Northwest Ohio. What
Correct.
can I do for you?
Well, I have a camcorder. I have the Canon Vixia.
Yes. In fact, that's what we use for our video streams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we like those.
I bought it 2 years ago to record my kids' events, and I bought it at Best Buy.
Yeah.
And I bought a SanDisk 64 gig memory card, SD card.
Yeah.
Which was plenty for what I need. The longest I record is 80-minute soccer games. So last week I got an error message that said recording has stopped due to insufficient write speed of the card.
Huh.
And it stopped recording, and then I hit record, and it would take a second to get back going again. And it would record, and I ended up being able to finish the game. But then I tried to bring it home. I did some research on Google, and some people were saying if you reformat the card, and if you initialize it in the camcorder, that might work. And I tried that. That didn't work. So I didn't know if that sounded more like a camcorder issue or if it's...
well, the card used to work. I mean, Canon's requirements for recording to the SD card for this camcorder are not super high. SD cards have a variety of speeds. You probably know this. In fact, if you look at the SD card, unfortunately, there's 3 different classifications. So most SD cards now have, like, there's a little U with a 10 in it. They say how many megabytes per second. They say it's crazy. I don't know how anybody can figure this out. There's literally 3 different standards, each of which is indicated on the SD card. But I'm looking at Canon's requirements for the Vixia on SanDisk cards, and they're not super high. You need a Class 4 card, which is pretty basic. So
and I have a Class 10.
So
that writes at 80 megabytes a second.
More than fast enough. In fact, they'll work with a 30 megabyte per second card. So it could be the card itself is wearing and it's time for a new one. The good news is they're really cheap. It could be that the camera you haven't updated the firmware lately, have you?
I have not. I haven't done anything to the camera. All I've ever done is record, bring it home, copy it to a hard drive, and then upload it.
I think all it is you need a new SD card. Anytime an SD card gives you an error of any kind, that's the time to get a new one because really it's all on there, and if it fails, which they do all the time, that's it. You've lost it. So that error, I'll give you an example of what might have happened. The cameras doesn't, it's been fine with the card, so we know the card's fast enough. But what if the card stumbled? What if the card couldn't write for a little while and couldn't keep up? So what happens on these cameras, it also is, if all cameras do this, even still cameras, they have a certain amount of their own memory, which they fill up as they're writing to the card. If at some point that buffer fills up, the camera's not looking at the card. It says, oh, I couldn't write fast enough. My buffer filled up. My internal memory filled up before I could write it. Your card must be too slow. It isn't, obviously, because you've used it for years, but it could be that the card itself is malfunctioning a little bit, and that gave it pause, which then let the buffer fill, which then made the camera tell you it's too slow. So I think that's it. Would
the cards still work in like a DSLR? I have a Nikon 3500.
Yeah.
And I used it in that, and I tried to record some video on that, and I took some still photos, and it worked just fine. I was able to come home and take that.
Yeah, I think it might be a false economy. SD cards, if you go look on Amazon now, that same SanDisk card is nothing. It's $20. It's probably a good idea to get a new one, because as soon as you get an error message of any kind, it's a signal from on high that card is on its way out, and you don't want to. Yeah, you could use it. You could keep using it until it fails, but when it fails, whatever pictures you took will be gone.
Right.
So I always have multiple cards and rotate them. They're not expensive now. And you could just get a couple just for backup and rotate them. The newer high-end cameras have dual card slots for this very reason. So you can set them up to write to both cards in case one dies. If you're a wedding photographer, you're going to have a camera like that because you don't want to miss a shot. I don't know how critical your photos and videos are. I bet they are. It's time to get a new card. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you today?
You did something fun yesterday. I'm great. Tell me about this orphan car thing you did.
Yeah, so here in Ypsilanti, Michigan, where I live, we have this annual car show in one of the parks called the Orphan Car Show, and it's dedicated to brands that are defunct, no longer around. Things like Plymouth and Mercury and Oldsmobile, and older brands like Corvair and Packard and DeSoto and brands that you just can't get in North America anymore, like Renault and Peugeot and Triumph and various others. And I was a judge in the Packard group, and it's a lot of fun.
I bet it was. What fun. Yeah. So you're picking like the best restoration of a Packard?
It's a little less formal than that. It's more, not quite as formal as a Concours. We go around and talk to the owners of all the cars in the group and just pick, our favorite, and there were three of us judging, including John Snyder from Autoblog and Don Sherman, who's with Haggerty these days. And we went and talked to the 20-odd owners of the Packards that showed up today and picked the one that we thought was the best, which was a 1956 Packard Caribbean convertible.
Fun. You're a car guy through and through.
I am.
Do you?
Absolutely.
Now, I know you drive an old Miata, an old gas Miata, but these more modern cars, do you bemoan, for instance, self-driving? I remember I used to talk to the CEO of Ford at the time, Alan Mullally, and I knew that Ford somewhere in the back room was working on self-driving cars, but every time I'd ask him, he said, "No, Leo, people love to drive."
When I had a commute, I drove down I-94 from Ypsilanti here down towards Detroit, and that was an incredible. I love to drive. And there was nothing enjoyable about
nothing enjoyable about driving.
I would have loved to have had an autonomous car. Just throw it in autonomous mode, sit back and relax and do some reading or something.
It's not driving
these
for
days,
pleasure. If you're
I work
commuting.
from my home office, so I don't need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for drives like that, I would just as soon use an autonomous vehicle or even a semi-autonomous vehicle for something like that.
You'd love driving more if you didn't have to drive the work stuff.
That's right. I these days I drive for pleasure.
Right.
Or when I have to go to meetings, things like that. So it's a very different kind of situation. But speaking of autonomous vehicles, one of the leading companies in the autonomous vehicle space these days is Nvidia, who most people think of for video cards, GPUs for the computers. But they also use those same chip architectures for a lot of different applications like data centers and for autonomous vehicles. Huh. And they recently published a video series called Drive Labs. It's a 10-part series, and I've dropped a link to the a playlist of the 10 videos in the chat room. And Nita Tsveti, who's a senior manager in the autonomous driving group at Nvidia, goes through and narrates these, and they break down their approach to the problem using deep neural networks. And what they do is they take a whole bunch of different neural networks that each one is looking for different things. Like, there's one that's dedicated to looking for lane markings and the edges of the roads, things like that. And so there's a lot of different pieces to this. And she goes through and explains how each one works and then how you put it all together. In the last video in the series, you go for a drive in the vehicle and you see how all these different pieces work together. It's pretty interesting, if you're interested in how some of this stuff is working with machine learning and neural networks to help vehicles understand the world around them. It's definitely worth taking. It's about 20 minutes to watch the whole series.
How is it that Nvidia is in this business? Why Nvidia?
Because their GPUs are really powerful.
So it's the processors they make. It's not the cameras. It's processors, LiDAR.
Yeah, they don't. Nvidia doesn't make any cameras or any of the other sensors. They make GPUs or chips in general, and software. And so they started off, they realized that their chips are really good at running AI software, machine learning software. And so they started developing development platforms they're used by a lot of companies that are developing this stuff. Their Drive PX series and now Drive AGX series. So you can go and buy one of these Drive AGX units for, depending on which one, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, and get a whole bunch of software frameworks, install it in a car, put in a bunch of sensors. And in fact, they even sell a whole kit now that comes with cameras and LiDAR and other sensors. Install it in a car and start developing this stuff. And that's what a lot of these startup companies doing AV systems are using in their vehicles. And they also have partnerships with a number of different OEMs, car makers that are using their chips. And so they're providing the brains for a lot of these vehicles. Not everybody's using Nvidia, but a lot of companies are using Nvidia chips.
Neat.
Yeah.
So how far off are we really from getting in the car and letting it drive us to work without paying any attention? Just read a newspaper the whole way.
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask a certain guy that works, down the peninsula from you,
Mr. Musk, Mr. Musk, he thinks it's going to happen this year practically. He's crazy.
Yeah, most of the rest of the industry, thinks that, it's probably, we're going to start seeing some low volume stuff in the next 2 to 3 years, but it'll really be towards the middle to the latter half of the 2020s before we really start seeing really high volume applications of what we call level 4 automation.
It could be 10 years off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily.
You know what I like, though, I have to say, and not having it now, I miss it in my Tesla, is adaptive cruise control. For a commute, a stop-and-go commute, just the idea that the car slows down when the car in front of it slows down, stops when it stops, and starts again when it starts again, means I still pay attention, but I don't have to ride the accelerator. I love that.
Yeah, no, I think adaptive cruise control is one of the greatest features that they've added to cars in the last 10 or 15 years. Actually, it goes back. The first ones appeared almost 20 years ago now, Mercedes-Benz. But it's a great feature to have.
Now, last week a guy called, and he has one of those old. It was kind of a classic Cadillac CTS station wagon from some years back. Yeah,
it's actually not that old. They were built between about 2008 or 9, I think they launched, and then they discontinued it in 2015. And he was wondering about getting parts for it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so getting parts for older cars can be a challenge, especially really, really old cars. But if anything that was built in reasonably high volume, it's generally not that hard to find parts. And something like that Cadillac, you can, because it's using a version of the Chevy small block V8, which is an engine that in various forms has been in production since the 1950s. It's much more advanced now, but there's tens of millions of those around. There's lots of parts available from a variety of suppliers. Most car makers keep parts in stock, most of the major parts in stock, for about 7 to 10 years after a car goes out of production. And then they often, when the car goes out of production, they will sell off a lot of the tooling to aftermarket parts suppliers who will continue to produce parts, commonly used parts for many years, especially for cars that were built in high volume, for many years after production. Where things can get a little dicey is with electronics. Those can be a lot harder to find, but even that, your best bet is often to go to a scrapyard, find a wrecked one, and to a pick and pull yard, and find parts that way if they're no longer available from dealers or parts stores.
There's Sam Abuelsamid once again, our car guy, wheelbearings.media. Thank you, Sam. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Leo.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I'll never buy a car again without adaptive cruise control, because that is the single part of driving I really hate, is that stop and go. That's the worst.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, no, that is a real pain, and I love having adaptive cruise for that. Fortunately, where you are in California, you don't have one of the problems that we have here in Michigan, where in the wintertime, using adaptive cruise control, when it snows, you can get snow and slush buildup on the radar sensor.
And then it doesn't see.
And then Yeah, and then after about 10 minutes, you get a warning. I've had this happen a couple of different times. You'll get a warning that the system is disengaging. Please stop and clear the sensor. And
annoying.
that's kind of a pain. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend stopping.
Yeah. No, in that case, you just
going.
take over manual control.
Yeah, keep going.
But that's one of the reasons, one of the challenges for autonomous vehicles is, to make them work in bad weather conditions, just keeping the sensors clean. And maybe that's something we can talk about next week.
Love to.
There was Ford recently put out an article about the work that they're doing. They're doing some interesting stuff with how they're keeping the sensors on their autonomous vehicles clean using air curtains and various other things. They even designed a bug launcher for testing their systems to launch dead bugs at the sensors to see how they can deflect them.
Oh, that's so cool. Bug launchers. Yeah. That's hysterical. Music today handled by Magic Mike Cozio. He's back for a one-day, one-night-only appearance. And Lady Laura, our new musical director, thanks to both of you. And, of course, Kim Schaffer on the phones. 8888 Ask Leo. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Now you know your cast and crew. Here's Neil in Phoenix, Arizona. Hello, Neil.
Good morning, Leo. How are you?
I am well. Good to talk to you again.
Great. Likewise. Well, I have a new issue for you. I have ordered my new iPhone 11 Pro Max, and I'll have it Friday because I have the iPhone upgrade program.
Nice.
But this year, what I did, because I have friends that also like iPhones, but what I did is I sold my existing iPhone XX and a XS Max, I should say, to a friend, and I'm going to pass this one along to them. So what I need to know, I understand that when I get my new iPhone, it's coming from Apple, but it's a Verizon phone. It'll set up with its phone number ready to go and so forth. But what I need to know is how to transfer the existing XS Max to the other person and how to put their phone number on that device.
So this is easy, but doesn't Apple want the old device back in the trade-in, in the yearly upgrade thing?
They would, except I paid it off. My friend paid it off. What I did is I give it to them for the cost, and so I kept the phone. Now I can give it to someone else.
That's nice that you have that flexibility, and you still get the new phone every year. That's great. So what you want to do is, yours is Verizon. Verizon now locks their phones for 3 months. The FCC gave them permission. For a long time, the FCC prohibited carrier locking for Verizon only. It was a condition for Verizon to buy some spectrum, one of the spectrum auctions a few years ago. Verizon got some very juicy spectrum. The FCC said, okay, but you can't lock your phones. Then Verizon has slowly been, because carrier locking is really awful. It's that deal where when you buy a phone from a carrier, they say, okay, but you can't use this. If you bought it from Verizon on T-Mobile or Sprint or anywhere else, you have to use it for Verizon. And that was understandable when you still were paying off the phone. But once you own the phone, that's your phone. You should be able to use it anywhere you want. It should be unlocked. AT&T, if you ask them pretty please and you meet certain conditions, they'll unlock it. T-Mobile's generally, they'll unlock it. Verizon has been forced not to have a locked phone, but they went back to the FCC and said, but Your Honor, what if the phone is stolen off the truck? We need to be able to lock it. So the FCC, buying that bogus premise, said, okay, you can lock it for the first 3 months. Yours, you've owned, you've paid off, shouldn't be locked. Normally what you would do is you'll take your SIM out. You're going to put that SIM in the new phone anyway, so you want to keep that. That's the little card. There's a little hole puncher in the box, and you punch it, take out the drawer, take out that little chip, put it in the new phone. That'll take your phone number with you. There's no phone. That's where the phone number lives. The other thing you need to do, and you absolutely must do, is erase that phone before you give it to your friend. And that's in the settings, general settings, where you erase all data and settings. And in that process, you'll be asked to give your Apple iCloud password. And in effect, you're releasing the phone. This is Apple's activation lock that keeps the phone from getting stolen. The other thing sometimes they say you should do is remove the phone from Find My iPhone. My experience has been if you go through that erase, you're sufficient. And so you'll erase the phone. It'll be as good as new from the point of view of your friend. They'll be getting a brand new phone. There'll be no SIM in it. They'll have to put their SIM in it. They'll have to take it out of their old phone. If they don't have one, they'll have to go to their phone company and say, I need a SIM for my number that I can put in this new iPhone I just got. You'll get your new iPhone on Friday. Just pop that SIM in. Did you get it unlocked or did you get a Verizon version?
No, I got it from Apple, but I told them to put the Verizon account in it.
Yeah, so you notice what Apple sells this time for the first time only. They say which carrier the big four, and then they say or unlocked. This is the first time Apple has offered a SIM-less unlocked version. If you haven't ordered it yet, folks, get the SIM-less unlocked version. It'll work with everybody. You just put your SIM in. But you told them, activate it. So you probably don't have to save your Verizon SIM. See what happens when you turn that phone on. See if it's already gone on the Verizon network. My experience in the past has been you still have to activate it. And so the easiest thing to do is just take out the blank SIM that the phone came with and put your old SIM in. And then it's very straightforward. Verizon will say, hey, welcome back. Here's your phone, blah, blah, blah. Your phone number will stay the same and everything. The other thing to do before you wipe your phone is ideally connect it to a computer. You could do it over Wi-Fi, but it's a lot slower. Connect to the computer, launch iTunes, and back the phone up. You want to get and do it with a password, so it's an encrypted backup. That way, all your passwords will be preserved, all your settings, all the apps you have, everything. So then when you get your new phone, you plug it into the same computer, iTunes, you give it the password, you say, restore this phone, and your phone will be exactly the same as it was. It'll be just a simple upgrade. That's the easiest way to do it. This time, when I get my new phone, I think what I'm going to do is start from scratch. Every once in a while, I like to start from scratch. That way, you don't have all the apps that you've downloaded over the last few years automatically installed. You can install them by choice. It's a little slower. It's a little more of a pain. You still have to, put stuff in folders and organize it. Do all the settings, do all the passwords. But I just think once every few years, I like to do that, a clean install. Does that answer your question?
Yes, just one quick follow-up, and that is my friend already has on Verizon. She has a 6S, I believe.
Yep.
Will that SIM fit the XS Max that she's taking over?
It sure will. It's a nano SIM, the smallest SIM. You may have to, at that point, call Verizon and say, I have a new IMEI number. This SIM is now attached to a new device. That's a very quick process. Doesn't always have to happen.
Thank you very much for taking.
You're welcome, Neil.
Thank you so much, Lou. Appreciate
It's a good one because everybody's doing it. All the cool kids are doing it, getting the new iPhones. This is the first year Apple has offered the unlocked phone at day of sale. Usually they wait a few months. I'm not sure why. I think probably out of respect for the rip-offs that we call the carriers. Out of respect, we're going to let you rip your customers off for a few extra months. Get an unlocked phone. Get an unlocked phone. And that way you can go with any carrier. See, carriers want to lock you in. They don't want you switching. How dare you? How dare you be disloyal to Verizon? How dare you? But you want to be because you want to get the best deal. So you may switch around. Maybe today maybe T-Mobile would be a better deal. Honestly, there's two things to look for with a carrier. One is price, of course, but the other is signal. You don't want a carrier that's not going to work, that calls are going to drop. You want a carrier that'll work at your house, at your office, and everywhere in between. So that's and man, when you see the ads, we're #1 U.S. nationwide, according to whoever. Doesn't matter how they are nationwide, unless you happen to be, a truck driver and you are nationwide. It really matters how a phone company works in your neck of the woods. So if you've got a good carrier, maybe even if it's a little more expensive, maybe it's better to stay with it, because that's a false economy to save money on a carrier that you can't make any calls with. You'll save a lot of money when you stop using your phone. I like the idea of I'm thrilled that Apple does this now. If you're buying it from Apple, obviously if you go to the Verizon store, you're going to get a Verizon phone and it's going to be locked. But if you're getting it from Apple, you can choose unlocked. And that's what I would do. That way you preserve flexibility. And don't we all want to preserve flexibility? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More of your calls coming up in just a bit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. Actually, our photographic guru, Chris Marquardt, will be here in about half an hour. help us take better pictures. I'm actually really excited about the new cameras that are coming out. No, not the Sony, Canon, Nikon. I'm talking about the Apple and Google cameras. Honestly, these camera and Samsung too, for that matter. And we might as well put Huawei in there too. They've got amazing cameras, even though you can't get their phones in the U.S. The camera phones now are so good that I don't think there's much of a market for point and shoot. They pretty much killed the market for standalone video cameras, right? And I have to think, SLRs, DSLRs, we're coming for you. These cameras are amazing, and it all comes down to what we call computational photography. The key that makes the smartphone such a good camera is not the lens. It's not a great lens. It's tiny, little sensor. You know, the physics of it aren't great. And the images, if you just looked at the images that these little cameras are getting, aren't that great. But what you forget, or maybe we don't forget, but what really makes a difference is you've got a supercomputer on the other end, your phone. Your phone is so powerful, and the new iPhone is a really good example. The new Pixel 4 will, I'm sure, be an equally good example from Google. Dedicated processors just for photography, designed to do all sorts of interesting things to make that picture really good. In low light, with zoom. Incredible. One of the things Apple's doing with their new camera, something Google did last year, and I'm sure Google will do something even better this year. Apple calls it night sight. Traditionally, digital cameras of all kinds, even big fancy digital cameras, don't do well in low light. Unless they have a really big sensor and they can gather a lot of light in, there tends to be a lot of noise, a lot of grain. It's just the nature of digital. They just don't do as well as film does in low light. But the way they're handling this on these cameras, which have tiny sensors, so they're not gathering a lot of light, is they don't just take one picture. Apple's new night sight, night vision, night something. Apple's new night style photography takes 9 images all at once. It's that fast. Boom, 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 boom. Press the button once, 9 images. The computer goes through the images, picks stuff that's not moving, it has the different images have different brightness, matches the stuff that's not moving with all 9 images, stacks them up. If something's moving, they'll pick one of the frames where the thing is still, your person or your boat or whatever is still, use that. They do all sorts of tricks. And if you know what they're doing, you can look for it. You can say, oh yeah, that person is a little not quite as high quality as the table they're standing at, because the table didn't move and they did. So you can see if you know what to look for. But if you don't know what to look for, that is amazing. It is practically dark, and this is a beautiful image. And that's computational photography. Chris has actually written I'm sorry, he hasn't written a book. He has a podcast about it. It's called The Future of Photography. I'll have to ask him about it when he comes in about 20 minutes. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. Back to the phones we go here. And on line 3, it's Nolan in Los Angeles. Hello, Nolan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
All right. My question shouldn't be that challenging, but I just couldn't figure it out. I have an iPhone 7, and I normally would listen to past episodes from you on my podcast app. And either they're not updating it or something. Anyway, I can't figure out how to download current episodes from you. What should I do, or how should I do that?
So the whole idea, the whole thing that makes a podcast, podcasts are just downloaded audio shows, right? Or sometimes video shows, right? That's all they are. The thing that makes it a podcast, and in fact, this was the thing I discovered when I started doing my very first podcast exactly 15 years ago in 2004, September 2004, I made a podcast out of this show. I had already been offering this show on my website at techguylabs.com for download. The audio, you could just download it. And somebody, a kid, he was Matt Bischoff, I remember still to this day, he's about 14, calls me up and says, why don't you do a podcast? Matt is now almost 30. Why don't you do a podcast? I said, what's a podcast? He said, well, what you do is you make an RSS feed. It's a text file that says, here's the episodes, and here's where you get them. Here's the link to them. And you can use a specialized program, an RSS reader, and it will check every once in a while. And when there's a new show, the feed will change. There'll be a new item at the top of the feed, and the RSS reader will say, oh, good, and download it. That's all a podcast is. Now, you don't use nobody uses RSS readers anymore. We use podcast applications, but they're doing the same thing. They're checking the feed. So every show I do, including this one, we put out a feed. For technical reasons, it's called an XML file. It's a specially formatted text file. And the podcast application looks at the feed. It should check periodically, look at it. When it sees a new one, it should download it. In order for that to happen on most podcast apps, including Apple's podcast app, you have to subscribe to the show. In effect, you're telling it, I want to know every time there's a new one, I want to know. And there may even be a switch in the settings that says automatically download new episodes. I think that's the one you have to check. So look in your settings and see if it says automatically download new episodes. As long as it's getting the new feed, the updated feed, it should see that there's a new episode. And then as long as you have that setting, it should automatically download it so you can listen to it. The reason that it doesn't do that automatically is a lot of people these days don't download shows. They stream them. They listen as they download. But if you subscribe and you have download shows, that's nice because if you're in an airplane, if you're somewhere where you can't get internet, you'll still have the whole show. If that still doesn't work for you, maybe, Apple's podcast is fine, maybe not the best. I like a program called Pocket Casts. You might try that. It's not free, but there's a free tier. I think that's pretty good too. If you want to, if you turn on automatic downloads and you're subscribed to our show, any one of our shows, and it's still not downloading, unsubscribe, delete the feed, and re-add it. It may have an out-of-date feed, or there may be something wrong with it.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm right, go on to basically do a search for your app. Is that what you're saying?
We don't use an app of ours because we don't have apps. But that's the beauty of a podcast. You don't need our app. You need a podcast app. A lot of shows make apps because they want to occupy space on your home screen, so you don't forget about them. And we have a number of apps that have been made by fans, which is great. But you don't need a Twit app or a Tech Guy app. You need Twit's the podcast network I do This Week in Tech. You just need any podcast app. Search for the show. Which show is it you want to listen to?
I listen to all your shows.
All of them.
I don't get to listen to them when I'm like now.
Yeah. That's cool. No, that's great.
Like a day or two later.
That's a full-time job listening to all the shows I do. There is a feed that's called Radio Leo that has all the shows I do. There's also a Twit All feed that has all the shows on our podcast network because I have other hosts doing great shows too, like Micah Sargent and Aunt Pruitt and Jason Howell and Denise Howell. So we have a lot of people doing shows, so there's more than just me. What I would do is go into your podcast app, search for TWIT, because that's the podcast network. It includes the Tech Guy show. And then it'll show you a list of all the TWIT shows, and subscribe to the ones you want. And then, as I said, make sure in the podcast app you've set it to automatically download shows. That way, when there's a new show, it'll download it. I'm so thrilled.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking. I'm so thrilled you listen. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nolan. Take care. And by the way, Apple uses the phrase, actually all podcast apps use the phrase subscribe, which implies you're paying for it. You're not. Podcasts are free. I think there are a few now people are trying paid podcasts. I don't do that. That's silly. It's free, and it's worth every penny of free. Our show today, we're free because we have great sponsors. I'm a big believer, having worked in radio for 40 plus years, in what they call ad-supported free media. It means everybody can listen, and we put some ads in, and that pays for it because it does cost money. I have to get paid, and we have to pay for bandwidth and servers and stuff, and I have editors, and I have a pretty big staff, about 20 people working on the show. They all need to pay the rent, so we have to make money somehow. We either charge you, or better yet, we don't charge you, we charge advertisers. And that works out great, I think. So there are people trying to do paid podcasts and stuff like that. And I thought at first when we started this in 2014, maybe that would be the way to go, but no. I like ad support. It means democratic. Everybody can listen. You don't have to have a penny to be able to listen to a podcast. Of course, you need an internet connection and a computer. That costs you money. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's take a little break. More of your calls, and then Chris Marquardt at the bottom of the hour, our photo guy, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. I've spoken with our digital photography guru, Chris Marquardt, and we're going to talk the new iPhone in just a few minutes about the camera in the new iPhone. That should be interesting. Line 4, Dave, Bradenton, Florida. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Leo. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. A little confused. I went and I listen to you all the time. Actually, long-time listener since the early screensaver days.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think you've saved me thousands of dollars. I think my wife feels that you've cost me thousands.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, I try to teach you technology.
I try to save you money, and then I spend it on something else.
But I think she loves the LG OLED TV.
I bet she does. Isn't that a nice TV?
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it.
Man.
Anyways, question I had the other day, I was listening to you, and I needed another phone. I gave her my 10R. I was going to get another one. You said wait until the new Apples come out, and I did.
Good.
And I'm a vet, and I can get the Apple vet pricing. They've really dropped the 10R down to $539 or $540.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, that's $150 off. Yeah. Oh, no, $200 off.
Yeah, they didn't take anything off on the new 11s.
Yeah, that's pretty typical.
So what I was thinking about doing is get the, actually I ordered the XR. I'm picking one up Friday. I ordered one with 128.
Beautiful.
Gig. It was, just an extra $50.
Well worth it. I think that's a great choice. That's a great phone. I think that was their bestseller last year. In some great degree, this new iPhone 11 is just, kind of a mild upgrade to the 10R.
Yeah, I feel I can wait until the 12 comes out.
They're saying, and I haven't mentioned this, but seems to be the consensus among iPhone watchers that next year's is going to be the big update. Anyway, they say this every year, but next year is going to be the big update. Normally, the way it works, we have the 10, right? And then we have the 10S. That's kind of it's almost a tick-tock cycle. The 10 is the big upgrade, and then the 10S is a slight improvement, which means normally the 11 would be a big improvement, but it wasn't. It really is the 10SS. So I don't think you're missing anything by getting the 10R. I think that's fine. And you're right.
Yeah,
if you can wait till next year, if there are going to be big changes, that's going to be the year of the big change.
I caught the only problem is I caught the excitement of the launch speech, and
of course
everybody's excited about the new phone. I said,
course.
Make a mistake.
No. Reality distortion field sets in whenever there's a new Apple event, right? Yeah. We all watch it. There is no company better at marketing than Apple. Like, for instance, they've been mocking, Dr. Mom in our chat room has been mocking the fact that the new iPhone 11 Pro has a surgical steel frame. Like you're going to perform an operation with it.
Yeah.
That's Apple. That's marketing. They could just say, it's a high-grade steel, or they could say stainless steel. But no, surgical grade, which is a meaningless term in context of a phone. If you're buying a scalpel, okay, but so that's typical. So I think it is very easy to get swept up by these Apple events. I do every time.
Well, I got swept up. I always played around with cameras. I had back 20, 30 years ago. I had the SLRs. I had a Nikon and a Canon, and wanted to get back and looking at. And I was kind of reading all about the Pixel 3, and I say that night sight is something that I might want to get involved with and play around with. And then with the Apple coming out and everybody talking about the cameras, but
get ready because the Pixel 4 announcement's next month.
Oh, I know.
And everybody's going to be singing its praises. I predict that the Pixel 4, which will now have, I think, 2 lenses, it's only got 1 on the 3 right now. I predict it will be, everybody will say, oh, this is the best camera. They're so close. Even your 10R with 1 lens is fine. You never had problems with your images, did you?
No, never.
It's a great camera. So I honestly think that you're fine. In fact, you're saving a lot of money. Apple kind of counts on people saying, I have to have the latest and greatest. It's no accident that the high-end 11 is called the Pro, because we all know pros spend more money. What is a pro iPhone user? What does that mean, Eva? Oh, yeah, I'm a professional. I mean, no, it's meaningless. There's no professional phone users.
Well, I think they tried to run off or tag on to the iPad Pros.
Yeah, well, and the Mac Pro is really where it all started, because there are professional users of computers. There are video editors and professional photographers, and they do have higher needs in a computing platform. I think it's stretching it a little bit when you go to the iPad, and it's stretching it a lot to call a phone a pro phone.
Pro.
That's market speak. It's silly. So you're right. Don't get swept away. That iPhone XR, you loved it. It was a great phone.
Oh, it's fine. I still love it.
Yeah, and now your wife will love it, and then you'll have matching phones. And by the way,
the funny thing, the iPhone was the first phone that she didn't need a user manual or any instructions.
Yeah. It's a nice phone.
She missed her home button. She said, I can't do this. Swipe it up. I said, now she's a pro at it.
You know, I love the gestures. I think that's a huge improvement.
Yep.
I think having a big screen.
Too.
Yeah. I'm a little disappointed that Apple did not do something about that giant notch. I think next year they will. I think they will. Fingerprint will come back. You'll have Face ID or fingerprint. There'll be a lot of things they could do next year. And the truth is, it's always best to wait as long as you physically can.
Yeah.
Just wait as long as you can. That's when you get the biggest jump. We're at peak phone at this point. They're not going to get that much better. So wait. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And you'll love the 128 gigs. You'll be taking more pictures, shooting more video. Put more music on there, stuff like that. I like having a lot of storage.
Make sure you have your mother on the screensaver. iOS today.
iOS today, I will. Mom is so great. Micah. Yeah, she'll love Micah too. That'll be fun. I will definitely do that. How do you like Micah?
Oh, well,
Isn't he great? I'm so.
Yeah.
I feel like
I don't want to say being an old guy, but he's so innocent to the show.
I know. He's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It's we really wanted to get some youth in here, being an old guy and all. Yeah. And I honestly think that he is a superstar. And the Ant, you'll see too, our newest hire, Ant Pruitt. He's a little green. He's a little nervous, so we got to get him a little more comfortable on camera. But he has a wonderful core of being. He's just a great guy.
I like the other day when Micah was putting in the trying to get that URL for the.
He bought the wrong. He wanted to buy. We're watching the event, and he wants to buy Selfies. Yeah, he bought it.
Back out of this.
He spelled it PHIES instead of FIES. I said, Micah, I think they're spelled with an F. He said, "Oh, now he has two." He's like Selfies.
The look at his face.
That was worth the $25.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're very lucky, frankly, to get both Ant and Micah. They're going to be, and we're looking to hire one more. We want to get a woman. We need more women on the air, and since we lost Megan, we want to get another woman to host. So we're looking for a woman. But I think that we've really, the problem always was for me is finding more me's, and I think we have. I'm really happy with the situation. I'm excited.
Well, it's an exciting show, and
thank you. I'm glad you watch it. I'm thrilled you watch it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, Daryl.
Okay,
take care. It's time for our photo guy, Chris Marquardt. He's here to help us get better pictures no matter what kind of camera we have. Chris leads photographic workshops at discoverthetopfloor.com, has written many wonderful books, including a book about film photography. I love your wide-angle book. He's got some great video classes, including... I always get the name wrong. 1,000 photos in an hour?
1 hour, 1,000 pics.
I always get it
.com.
confused.
.com.
1 hour, 1,000 pics.com. A must-have for anybody who takes a lot of photos like I do and then never gets to process them. He is also a great photographer. I don't know how you find time to take pictures too, but he does that as well. So, Chris,
that's
you said
you're
you're not buying the new iPhone.
Not at this point. I have an XR10R, which
perfectly good, right?
I mean, for me, what counts, I always have like a in quotes, proper camera with me. So for me, the most important thing on a phone at this point is the battery life, and that's just the best one that was available at the point. So yeah, I'm an every second year type. So I'll wait for the S version in a year, and that's probably what I'm going.
As we were talking about, I think that if there's going to be a talk or a tick, we're in the talks. If there's going to be
those
a tick,
would typically be the better ones anyway.
Next
so
year.
I'm
5G probably and things like that. So
5G, the ultra wideband thing, which whatever you read about this is going to be very exciting. They only did this little announcement where you can like points airdrop at someone, and then they are the highest on the list. But this will, if everything that's out there is to be believed, that will enable features beyond what you can imagine now. Being able to pinpoint locations in 3D space is going to be important.
Nevertheless,
maybe even for photography.
You must have looked at the back of that new iPhone 11 Flow Max and have said, "Wow, that is quite a camera bump." 3 lenses.
And it's a kind of a two-stage camera bump. You have this platform that's ground into the glass, and then on top of that you have the camera bump. And it is important for cameras to have depth, and that's why the camera bump is there in the first place. Cameras need space, and I think that's their way to carve out a little more depth for the cameras by giving it this. I call it the two-stage bump. So I don't know. Has anyone measured? Measured the depth from the back of the case up to the top of the bump?
We're in that limbo now because nobody can talk about it. The first reviews will probably come out Wednesday. There are definitely journalists who have pre-release versions, and of course, the rest of us will get it on Friday. But those who saw it in the demo room, because on Tuesday Apple invited people to come back and look at it, remarked that it isn't as bad as it looked in the renders and the pictures that we saw.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's bad. I don't really think it's bad. I mean, if we're looking at what's the latest Pixel has that kind of a square thing on it too with
they all have a little bit of a bump, and you're going to probably get a case, and that'll smooth it out. So
yes,
I don't think anything to worry about. Are you impressed? See, again, we haven't had a chance to see real images. We've only seen Apple's take on it. But are you impressed with the capabilities? Do you think it's
Well, I mean, the 3 cameras, they cover an interesting range, 13 millimeters at the widest range.
That's really wide, too, isn't it?
I did the wide angle book, so this is exciting for me. So that's why it's kind of, my fingers are itching to get one.
I love wide angle shots. You taught me that. Yeah.
And 13 ultra wide angle is an amazing focal length.
And clearly the computer, the camera itself, the phone itself is doing correction because there's not a lot of curvature or distortion. On what?
Oh yeah, that is easy. Every camera these days does that now. That is the correction for distortion isn't a problem anymore. What is interesting is that those 3 cameras are matched, so they work together really well in terms of colors. So the phone will often use more than one camera at the same time, and they work together. And then when you zoom, they switch over, but you don't see the switch because they are all matched and calibrated to each other. So that is, I think, what makes that a very seamless feeling.
Yeah.
The night mode is interesting, and of course Google has that with the Pixel, and Huawei has that somewhere too.
The funny thing is Apple's doing exactly what Google did last year.
Of course, because that is how you do that. That's the way to do it. You take multiple photos. Yeah. I think Apple takes 4 normal and 4 so-called secondary photos even before you press the shutter. So it has a rolling buffer that keeps taking pictures all the time. And then when you press the shutter button, it takes an additional one, a longer one. That's the 9th photo. And then it does something, I think they call that deep fusion or something that they are going to implement. And it's pretty much, they choose the best pictures. They do some magic on there. They fuse them in some way, and that way make that into a picture that doesn't look too weird for us, that looks normal to us, even though there's a whole lot of interesting computation going into that. So that is, that's catching up to Google and Huawei at this point. But it was expected. I kind of expected that kind of feature.
Are you excited about Selfies? Slow motion selfies.
It is great that they have a 12 megapixel selfie camera in there. That is a nice improvement.
For the first time, the front camera is the same quality as the back camera.
Yes, and it's great that they can do 60 frames per second at 4K with that. It does 4K. That's great. So Selfie, yeah. You know, what I would probably do is I take this and go, and then do that once and laugh about it and then probably not use it
never
anymore.
use it again. Yeah. But you know you'll be seeing a lot of Selfies on Instagram.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. The portrait mode is improved. They have they will now recognize not just people but animals and objects. So
you know what I really like is that high contrast portrait mode.
High key mono.
What is that? Tell me about that.
Mono.
Yeah.
Well, they know the depth information, right? They know what is how far away from the camera, so they know where the background is behind the person, so they just take that out and replace it with a white wall. So you have this white background, you have a nice black and white high contrast rendition of a photo, and they do a bit of they change how it's lit so it is more studio-like. And that is all packaged into this one easy-to-use, one-click high-key monofilter. So you can take these studio-like portraits anywhere. The background doesn't matter because the camera knows how to take it out. So it's very, very smart stuff going on there.
Come on, admit it. You're going to be feeling really left out next week when Instagram is loaded with high-key Selfies.
We'll have an iPhone 11 in the house pretty soon. Monica is going to get one. So we take turns, so I'll have plenty of opportunity to play with one and then wait for the next year. That's at least what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. The thing that, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and it's really a specialty feature that most people wouldn't care about, but if you use a third-party program called Filmic, and they demonstrated this, it's such a fast phone that it can use 2 lenses at the same time. So
I think even more. I think all of them. I think that's what I heard. So you can switch between different.
So if you record, you could have 4 different recorded streams, which you could then edit.
I believe that's what I heard. I hope that's what I heard because
even
that
2,
would be
even 2,
even just you and the person opposite of you, and you shoot an interview and have both angles covered. Yeah.
And that's really a testament to the speed of the processor, this A13 Bionic. And Apple is now finally using memory on its phone that is as fast as the fastest desktop flash memory. And that's going to make a very big difference. You can write fast, so that means you can write multiple video streams at the same time. I'll be playing with that.
Possible.
Well, Chris, we'll look forward to your iPhone 11 Pro photo book.
Probably there might be a new book on the horizon, but maybe not that.
You'll find Chris at discoverthetopfloor.com. Man, he has so many great workshops. I think an iPhone photo workshop would be fun. I'm just saying. Discoverthetopfloor.com. We'll talk next week, Chris, and I'll tell you what our assignment is right after this. Actually, somebody asked a great question, and I'm sure you cover this in the Future Photography podcast. When are we going to see these kinds of capabilities in a DSLR?
Well, that's the big problem. DSLRs, most of the smartphones don't come from cameras; they come from computers, and the incumbents, the big and slow companies like Canon and Nikon and so on,
even Sony,
they have a hard time. They have a hard time catching up. Sony doesn't. Sony bought a camera company, Minolta. They bought Minolta.
Wow.
And that's where that comes from. So they come from consumer electronics. They are much more nimble than the big ones. Sony, I mean, you see Sony knocking it out of the park all the time with bigger cameras and better cameras and faster cameras and more megapixels. And they are not even afraid of making mistakes. So some of those cameras might have some flaws, but they just keep going. With the established old big companies, they have a hard time adapting. It's a bit like the car industry right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's similar stuff happening there. So at this point, I don't think we'll see that kind of stuff in DSLRs anytime soon. It's going to take some time. Nikon D6 has just been announced. Is anyone talking about it?
Ooh, I haven't heard. Now, don't tell me about it because I don't have any Nikon lenses.
No, they have not even they have just said that it will come and they showed a picture. That's all.
Oh,
they
that's
haven't
all.
given
Okay.
or anything.
Is it a
But no one's
mirrorless?
talking about it. No DS. We're talking about Nikon's flagship DSLR.
Oh, that's
digital
their high end.
SLRs.
Oh,
it's the high end, the biggest one, D3, D4, D5, D6.
But DS
And-
though fooled me. So what is the S?
No, Did I say S? No, it's the D6.
The D6. You did say D6.
D6.
You're right. You said D6. Wow, they're already
Yeah.
the D6. I remember when the D1 came out. They're already the D6.
I remember playing with the D3 for a month. Yeah, but
Boy,
again,
are those
no one's
big and
talking
heavy.
about
Oy.
it. No one's talking about it. That's yeah.
Well, we'll find out. I know a few Nikon shooters. We'll see. I'm very happy with my Sonys now. This is my happy spot. My happy.
Yeah,
place.
and it's a good fit because it's a computer.
Yep.
The Sony camera is a computer, and they come from that area, and that's a very good match with you.
You know where we're seeing computational, of course, though, is post-processing. And there, yeah.
That's a different side, and that will, the combination of that and what's going on in the cameras is where the magic is right now.
The new Luminar 4, which comes out soon, they've got AI structure. We'll see what that means.
AI structure, sky replacement, these kind of things.
Yeah, they do some amazing content-aware adjustments, things like that. Very interesting.
Well, we'll see where this takes us.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Help is on the way. 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number, if you've got a question, a comment, a suggestion. Chris always leaves us with an assignment, our photo assignment for the next few weeks. Electricity. No, we did electricity. What comes after electricity? F. We're doing it in alphabetical order. Now I forgot. Oh, man, I better go to Flickr.com. That's where we do this. It's the Flickr group, the Tech Guy group on Flickr. And if you join the group, the rules will be there. And I think I'm going to have to, is it not? Oh, focus. Thank you. Cal Sage in our chat room remembered. Focus. So, again, we're looking to take new pictures, and it can be with a camera phone. Doesn't have to be with a fancy camera. Illustrating the idea of focus, whatever that means to you. Out of focus, in focus, I don't know. Could be the deep focus of a person staring at something. I don't know. We want to leave it open. You could submit as many as one picture a week for the next, I think, 3 weeks to the Tech Guy group on Flickr. Flickr's free, flickr.com. It's a great photo sharing site. And the Tech Guy group has about 13,000 people in it now. So join in there. Renee Silverman, our moderator, will welcome you. And just tag your photo if you want to submit a photo for Chris's review, because he'll pick 3 of them and talk about them on the radio in a couple of weeks. Tag it with TG for Tech Guy. TG Focus. One word. TGFOCUS. That way Renee knows it's for our photo assignment. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number. Back to the phones we go. Jeff in San Diego. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going, Leo?
It's going good. You have the little ones today, I think.
Every day, yes.
Every day. You're brave.
No days off in parenting.
No, believe me, I know that. Even when they get to 18, there's no days off.
I'm sure, yeah.
That's the bad news. They never grow out of you.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right. And I agree. What can I do for you?
Well, I am currently using an iPhone 4, and I want to move into the more modern era, if you will. But I currently don't use the phone for anything other than phone calls and text messages, and I would like to venture into the world of using the internet on my phone and email, and I enjoy having a $15 a month phone bill currently.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's going to change. So
of course,
I could talk about this a little bit. Whenever I see somebody with an iPhone 4, I go, "Oh, that's a cute little phone. It's so cute. It's so little."
Yeah.
I forget how small these things were. So as we use phones for more than just texting and phone calls, the internet, we want bigger screens. It's easier to type. It's easier to see. That's why the screens have gotten bigger and bigger. And the first kind of culture shock you're going to go in, if you go into the phone store and look, is how big these guys are. You may not like that. A lot of people used to the iPhone 4 say, I don't want an iPhone 11. These things are too huge. The iPhone 11 Pro Max is 6.4 inches.
Wow.
Yours is 4 inches. So there's a big difference. You might look at the iPhone SE, but I think I would encourage looking as big a screen as you can handle, because it really does make a difference when you're doing things like looking at websites or doing email. Big is better.
Well, I mean, I don't need to do any of that stuff for my job. So, if you will, my biggest concern is keeping the phone bill down as low as possible.
So don't go with the big four. That's the first rule of thumb. We're not going to get you down to $15, but we can get you pretty close.
Yes. Okay.
So what you want in most cases is not the original AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon. You want somebody that's reselling their service at what they call an MVNO, a mobile virtual network operator. There are lots of companies that resell, and because they're reselling, they're often a lot less expensive. I'll give you an example. We have a sponsor. I'm just saying it's a sponsor because there are others you can look at, but Mint Mobile I love. So the way Mint Mobile works is you basically are paying for the bandwidth you want. You don't need a whole lot. I pay for 12 gigabytes a month, which is a lot, and that's $25 a month. So it's not much more than your 15. You could go down to less and pay less. Now, here's the catch. They don't have a store. That's one of the ways they save money. There's no storefront. It's just an online company. And maybe this is an even bigger catch. The best deal is if you pay a year ahead of time. So I paid $300 for a year, but I'm going to get 12 gigabytes and unlimited phone and text for $300 a year. That's $25 a month. So that's one way to save, right?
Okay.
There are other ways to do it. There's Ting, which is another MVNO. Oh, and by the way, what you always want to do is find out who they're reselling. So, for instance, Mint Mobile's reselling T-Mobile. So if T-Mobile's good in your neighborhood, and this is what you have to find out.
Okay.
What are you using right now?
Verizon.
Okay. So, and Verizon's working presumably very well for you.
Yeah.
Verizon has a low cost.
San Diego. Verizon's
good.
Work around here.
Yeah, Verizon's good. You should ask friends, family, colleagues. What do you use to see what's good? But I think probably everything will well. If you're in an urban area, almost always everything works well. Verizon has a low cost service they call Visible. You might look at Visible. It's less expensive. It's all data based, but you have to have a Visible compatible phone. But you're going to get a new iPhone that will be Visible compatible. There is Ting, as I mentioned. They have very low cost plans. My father-in-law, we got a Ting phone for him. It's $6 a month because he doesn't do a lot of data. And then Google has its own service, which is Sprint, T-Mobile, and U.S. Cellular combined. And it is also very affordable. You pay as you go. So it's $20 flat for unlimited phone and text, a little more than you're already paying. And then $10 a gigabyte or fraction. You can get a half a gigabyte for $5. So you're paying as you go for the amount you use.
Okay.
I find my Google Fi bill is very low. I especially recommend Fi if you travel out of the country because its international rates are the same.
What's it called? Fi?
Google Fi. It's fi.
Google.fi.google.com.
And you can buy one of their phones. You might want to wait till the Pixel 4 comes out next month because that might be the phone for you. I know you're using an iPhone now, but you need to use this is the negative on Fi. You need to use a phone that's compatible, and right now it's a handful of phones, not the iPhone. But Fi is nice if you travel internationally because it's the most affordable, the fastest internationally.
And to use these MVNOs, can I use unlocked phones?
Yeah, in most cases, they have both a bring your own phone section, and they'll tell you which phones and how to do it. And they often sell phones, dedicated phones for their service, so you get to choose. Mint Mobile is an example. Generally, they encourage you to bring your existing phone, or you could buy one unlocked from Apple.
Okay.
And then you can port your number, which means you can. This is thanks to the FCC. They're all required to allow you to take your number from Verizon to wherever you go. Verizon's going kicking and screaming. Verizon may be slow to release it, but you will get your number and you can move it to any service you want.
Okay.
But I would look at Visible, since you're already a Verizon customer, see if it gives you the price you want and the features you need.
Okay.
In other words, there's a lot of choices. It's a fairly competitive market thanks to these MVNOs, and that's one of the reasons Verizon created Visible, because they realized they're going to lose business to these other guys. All right, you got to go out, get the diaper bag, get the babies. You're heading out.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Have a great day. Yeah, go look at VISIB. I call it Visible because the logo for this, it looks like it's just VSBLE, but it's VISIBLE.com, visible.com. And it's $40 with unlimited data, $40 a month. That's less than half what I pay for a full Verizon account. So worth probably checking out. It's good. Competition's good. Absolutely. Let's take a break. More calls coming up right after this. I want to give a little credit to our sponsor for today, because I use them to do this show, every show I do, Zapier. Zapier is a way to kind of automate your workflow. The old saying is, if you do anything more than a few times, spend some time to automate it, right? Why do routine work? Computers are so good at it. But nobody wants to learn to be a coder or spend a lot of time with, complicated setups. Zapier makes it easy to automate all the things you do in your life, in business and at home. It's great for business. They have connections, to all the apps you use, CRM and database, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. In fact, 1,500 plus apps. So it's really easy to say, all right, well, here's one of the apps I use. I use it all the time. Anytime I'm reading the news in my newsreader, if I highlight a story, Zapier takes over, tweets it to my links for Twitter, and then this is what I love about Zapier. You can do multiple things. Puts it up on Facebook, on Twitter, puts it on Pinboard, and then which is my bookmarking thing, and then I love this, it makes a spreadsheet, because Karsten then uses the spreadsheet to populate our rundowns. It does that all with one click. You'll think of 100 ways to use Zapier. It is so cool. Zapier.com/techguy. They're more customizable than anybody else because they support multi-step zaps. So really, the sky's the limit. Great for sales. Engage your leads instantly. Import new customers automatically. Let your team know about new opportunities. All the stuff that you now are taking time to do can be completely automated with Zapier. And you don't have to be a coder. It's so easy. Build a solution you need in minutes. They have the most gorgeous interface. You'll love it. And just don't do things over and over because you have to. Automate them with Zapier. That's what it was made to do. Go to Zapier.com/techguy. Connect the apps you use the most. Let Zapier do the grunt work. Best of all, it's easy to build the exact solution you need in minutes. No code, no asking a developer for help, no going down to the IT department. They don't want to see you. You can do it yourself. 4.5 million people use Zapier, including me. I've been a Zapier user for years. I just love it. On average, Zapier users save 40 hours a month. That's an entire work week saved. You'd be crazy not to use this. Make more time to grow your business, to have fun, to see your family. Now through November, I'm using Zapier so I can spend more time with my family. Now through November, try Zapier free by going to Zapier.com/techguy. Zapier, Zapier.com/techguy. Free 14-day trial. Trust me, just try it. You'll see Zapier is the best. Zapier.com/techguy. Thank you, Zapier, for making the podcast possible. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Now, time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that stuff. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Love to hear from you. If you want to talk high tech, now's the time. 8888 Ask Leo. Website is techguylabs.com. And I mention that so that you don't have to write anything down. When you're listening to the show, if you go, I got to remember that. Don't worry. Just remember one thing, techguylabs.com. We put everything up there. Thank you, James DeRuvo. A tip of the hat to you. He's writing, getting it all up there. And then afterwards, we put audio and video from the show. So really everything's there. And by the way, it's free. I'm not pitching it to make money off of it. It's completely free. It's just so that you can go in there and find the stuff we're talking about and you don't have to remember it. TechGuyLabs.com. On to the phones. Victorville, Rick on the line. Hello, Rick.
Hello, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
The reason I'm calling is because last year, or the end of the school year, I sent up a weather balloon and read everything I could.
Are you a teacher? Did you do this for a class?
Yes, I am. I'm a third grade teacher.
How fun!
So
How fun!
At the end of the year, we do a little unit on weather and cloud cover.
Neat.
So I did all the research, made sure all my cameras were charged, put everything on the platform to send it up.
Yeah.
And after reviewing the video, when it came down, after about 45 minutes, my GoPros that I put on there had shut off.
Ah.
And come to find out, what happened what I believe happened is the GoPro topped off. It stopped drawing from the battery packs that I sent up with it plugged in. And then the battery pack shut off, and it was unable to turn back on to keep the GoPros charged.
Do you think it was the temperature?
So, I don't think that at the point where it shut off that the temperature was an issue.
Because of course, lithium-ion batteries don't do well in very cold weather or very hot weather, and I don't know how high that balloon got, but it probably got fairly cold up there.
Yeah.
How many thousand feet? How many thousand feet did it die at?
I want to, if my calculations were right, was about 50,000. It'll climb to about between 90 and 100,000.
Okay, dude, it's 40 degrees below zero up there. Of course the camera died. You're a teacher. You should figure it out. But I know that when I'm riding in an airplane at 35,000 feet, it's many tens of degrees below zero. It's pretty darn cold out there.
And I know that temperature certainly is, it could be the issue, but I did use, the recommended equipment for sending it up. Now, what's interesting is, and I think this may be the solution, but I don't know what it would be called, is my spot locator that triggers when it comes back down to tell me where it is.
Yeah.
Just uses like a high end, and it is actually, I believe it's a lithium-ion type AA battery.
No, it's a dry cell. It's not lithium-ion. That's why it worked.
Okay.
So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it worked. So it's all about chemistry. This is a great teaching moment. I don't know if the third graders are going to really get it, but their teacher will. Lithium. So all batteries have chemistry, right? That's how they work. Whether it's a potato or lithium ion or a dry cell. And by the way, it's lithium ion in the GoPro, and it's those batteries used to keep it charged are undoubtedly lithium ion as well. And in low temperatures, the reaction just stops. And you were well below the range for lithium ion. So I'm got to think that's got to be what happened. It's pretty cold at 50,000 feet.
So,
dry cells. You want to use dry cells for that.
What device could I? Well, so then I'd have to change the camera type out too. What type of camera would run on a dry cell battery?
That's a very interesting question.
Because I know. I mean, GoPros are used. I mean, they for some pretty extreme temperatures. Maybe not that. Well,
yeah. Remember the guy who set the record and then lost the record for the highest free fall, and he was like 100,000 feet up, and that was sponsored by Red Bull. So we know Red Bull works at that temperature, but I believe he was using GoPros. Maybe there's a way to insulate them, to protect them from the temperature. That might be the first thing I'd look at. And then there are lithium...
The payloads go up on...
Yeah, well, that's right. You can only get so much in there, right?
Yeah.
when it falls below freezing, which it definitely did, it's going to be difficult, I think, for those lithium ions to work. And this is one of the problems with, for instance, electric vehicles in cold weather. They all have heating and cooling systems to keep the lithium ion batteries at the optimal range. Otherwise, they would just freeze.
Right.
I don't know. I'll have to look.
My hope was that the GoPro itself, in the process of charging, would create enough heat to insulate.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, that's why if maybe you wrapped it in a blanket or bubble wrap or something. Let me look. I'm looking, and I'm sure you did this, but on a website called highaltitudescience.com that one of our chatters sent along. And it talks about all the things, including insulation, that might be important. Do I need to insulate my payload from the cold temperatures of the upper atmosphere? In most cases, insulation's not necessary, writes High Altitude Science. Our Eagle Pro weather balloon kit has no insulation, never experienced negative effects from low temperatures. Now, they're not talking about cameras here. Cold temperatures can reduce the effectiveness of most batteries. A battery is simply a chemical reaction. The reaction rate slows as the temperature drops. A battery that has the capacity to power your electronics at room temperature could be inadequate at below freezing temperatures. The best solution to this problem is to only use batteries that are rated for cold temperatures. For this reason, High Altitude Science recommends Energizer Ultimate Lithium batteries. By the way, the word lithium doesn't mean they're lithium ion. Ultimate lithium batteries to power your flight computer and satellite tracker. But you're right that battery in the GoPro is lithium ion. I wonder, though, as you say, that maybe there's enough heat generated by the GoPro that that's not an issue. And what happens if the GoPro battery isn't delivering energy? Will it just pull that energy from an external battery that's plugged in? It might. That's a really interesting question.
No, I know from prior use that it'll draw off of at least the juice pack that I was using. All I really need is enough to whatever milliamp hours that the GoPro would use in an hour to cover the gap for on the way up. And then after it shuts off, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I love this project, and this is why you do these, right? Because.
Absolutely. Yeah,
because now I'm looking at a high-altitude balloon kit that uses hand warmers. So, those little things you put in your pocket to keep your hands warm, and lithium, and uses lithium batteries, which are less sensitive to cold temperature. Maybe a hand warmer, maybe put the GoPro in something with a hand warmer, and then use lithium, use some sort of juice pack that uses lithium AAA batteries instead of lithium-ion batteries. This has obviously been solved. People do it all the time, and what a great project! How did the third graders love it?
They did love it. Yeah, they
so cool.
The video I got back, it cut off about after 45 minutes.
That's
fine. Still enough to
plenty.
Them and myself.
Yeah. How exciting! What a great project.
They really enjoyed it.
Let me honor you, Teacher of the Year. You're the Tech Guy Teacher of the Year. What a great project, Rick. Your third graders are very lucky. And yeah, I think a little research on this. I'm almost certain that it's lithium ion and 40 below that is the problem here.
Okay.
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 Hey, there are lots of information online. We'll put the 2 links that I was looking at. We'll put in the show notes so you can refer to those. High Altitude Science, and then this is a company that sells these kits, and they use those Energizer lithium batteries, and they also use hand warmers. Hand warmers, not that heavy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. We're gonna get back to the phones, answer some more questions in just a little bit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Line 3, Daryl, Orange County. Thanks for hanging on, Daryl.
You're welcome, Leo. Hey, got a couple questions. Maybe you can steer me in the right direction. I have an Apple TV right now, and I'm looking to upgrade to the 4K to do that 4K product that they just came out with. I've got a 2018 Samsung Smart TV, but I've started upgrading my home to a lot of Alexa stuff. So I'm kind of in this, should I go with the Apple 4K? Should I go with the Fire Stick 4K? Can you kind of give me some thoughts on that?
I have both, and I also have a Roku 4K. One thing to know, of course, you're going to want a 4K HDR. By the way, in my opinion, 4K is great. HDR is better. So usually you'll get both, but make sure you get anything you get has HDR capability, including your TV. Unfortunately, there are multiple HDR standards. Why do they do this to us? To
get us to buy all the equipment.
Yeah. So it started for me. I got a 4K TV, and then I realized, oh, wait, I now need to get everything else 4K, including my AV receiver, my streamers, my Roku, my Apple TV, my Fire TV, my Shield. There's HDR. There's HDR10. There's HDR10 Plus.
Right.
There isn't a standard. When you buy a UHD Blu-ray, an HDR Blu-ray, it will usually support HDR10, but there's also Dolby HDR. Every TV that is HDR capable is at least HDR10. That's the minimum. But you'd like to see 10 Plus supported. You'd like to see Dolby HDR supported. And you'd like to see that in your streamer as well. But just make sure at least that the streamer matches the TV. And honestly, the reason I emphasize this is HDR makes, in my opinion, more of a difference in 4K.
Okay.
It's dramatic. You want the blacks to be pitch black, dark, but without losing detail. And you want the bright specular highlights when you're watching a J.J. Abrams Star Trek. You want that little glint of sunlight off of the Enterprise to blind you.
I want to see that.
You want to see that. So that's HDR right there in a nutshell. The dark sky, the bright, blinding sunlight off the Enterprise. And that makes a movie great. So that's what you're looking for. I think here's the one advantage Apple has. Really, the only reason at all to get an Apple TV is if you buy stuff on iTunes or rent stuff on iTunes.
Okay.
Because nothing else the Apple TV does is unique. Everything else is just like a Roku or a Fire.
Yeah, it's just streaming. Yeah. Right. Now, is there any advantage of one over the other?
Well, there is one advantage with Apple. Because I've bought many movies on Apple's iTunes, Apple did an amazing thing when they came out with their new Apple TV, the 4K, a couple of years ago. They upgraded every movie that they could to 4K for free.
Okay, nice.
Wow.
Nice.
I mean, wow. All of a sudden, my Goodfellas that I've been watching in 1080p is 4K.
Yeah.
And it's HDR if possible, if it's available. So that was a very nice thing. Apple continues to do that. I think that is a good feature. They also do a good job, I think, on their streaming. But I'll tell you why I don't like Fire TV. Nothing wrong with it technically, but it really does. They advertise Amazon big time.
Yeah, they do.
So if you like Amazon, if you're an Amazon Prime guy, fine. But to be fair, Apple does the same thing with their stuff, sort of. So
right. All right. Now, if I'm cutting the cable and going just to a streaming service, is there any advantage of one over the other, or they're about the same?
Well, yeah, and this is the problem nowadays is you can end up spending more money subscribing to Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, HBO Go. You end up spending $100 a month instead of $60. So and you still have to have your bandwidth. So you should pick. That's going to come down to the content you want. The good news, another reason to buy an Apple TV, for now anyway. If you think that any of the shows on Apple TV Plus, and they've only announced I think 6, but they've got more coming. If you like any of them or think you'll get that for free for a year when you buy an Apple device, whether it's an iPhone, an Apple TV, or a Mac. So that's a free year of what is normally $5 a month. That's something to keep in mind. Even if you're paying for it, it's half the price of most of the other guys. Disney's going to be, I think, $9.99. Netflix is $11.99. Amazon Prime, well, you have to buy Prime to get it. So you have to decide what services you want. You probably don't want all of them. I think everybody needs Netflix because I think at $12 a month, there's a pretty nice range of stuff. But that's up to you. Do you want HBO? Then you have to pay $15 a month for HBO Now. Do you want Showtime? Another $15 for Showtime. It really adds up. It really is crazy. My favorite streamer, setting all that aside, is the Roku. The Roku Ultra 4K HDR 10. If you have an Atmos system, a surround sound system, you might want the Apple because it does Dolby Atmos. That's the upward firing speakers. I don't know if you care about that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they also support Dolby Vision, which is the Dolby's version of HDR. So,
correct. Yeah.
These are things to keep in mind. It's crazy. Well, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I thank you for calling. It's not an easy decision to make, and honestly, what it's come down to, and it's not really a surprise, because the cable companies, they knew this was coming. They slowly ratcheted up the cost of high-speed internet, and the various services ratcheted up to the point where cord cutting, you don't do it to save money. Honestly, you're probably not going to save money. You still have to have high-speed internet from somebody. You have to subscribe onesie, twosie to all these services, and they've unbundled everything now. Everything you got to pay for. You do it only because you don't like your cable company, and you just want to stick it to them and send a signal that this will not stand. It's not as satisfying as it seems to be honest with you. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Tech Guy Podcast brought to you today by our fine sponsor, the folks at FreshBooks. Another quality product that I use and I've known for years. In fact, I first started using FreshBooks when invoicing was getting me down. When I was going up to Canada to do call for help, I had to invoice Rogers up there for my time and my expenses, and I had to do it in Canadian dollars. And, fire up the spreadsheet, fire up Microsoft Word. It was just a pain. It got so bad that I just stopped sending invoices. I would do it like every 3 or 4 months, which made Rogers really mad. At one point, finally their bookkeeper said, "Look, if you don't bill us every month, we're not going to pay you." I said, okay. I was complaining about it. Amber MacArthur told me, okay, brand new startup in Toronto. This is back in 2004. Brand new startup. You're going to love them, FreshBooks. I went, I tried, I used. FreshBooks started by making invoicing a lot easier, and it can handle currencies. It's actually used in all over the world, 120 countries all over the world. So it handles every currency automatically. I could just take a picture of my receipts, get that into the invoice. Over time, though, over the intervening years, not only has FreshBooks gotten easier to use, it's gotten more powerful. So now it's a full accounting system. But you aren't doing accounting. It just happens in the process of billing, organizing your expenses, tracking your hours. It just magically happens. And you can see on the FreshBooks dashboard, are you making money at this time? You get all the reports your tax preparer will need. You can view expense reports. You can track time. You can have different billing prices for different work for the same client. I mean, it's very sophisticated. Of course, the invoices are beautiful. And by the way, with FreshBooks, you get paid faster, like twice as fast on average, because when you're using FreshBooks, you have the capability of taking online payments. That's just built in. So when your client gets the invoice, there's a button that says pay right now. And truthfully, clients, you're making it easy for them, they're going to pay more often and they're going to more quickly, and you're not going to have to worry about it. FreshBooks app is incredible. It can help you. It gives you client information's in there anywhere you are. You can send an invoice from the phone. You can check for updates. You can file receipts, respond to clients. Just anytime you want information about how your business is doing, it's there. Stay on top of your business's well-being. This is hard, I know, as a freelancer, and I just hated the paperwork. Let FreshBooks do it for you. You just leave behind the days of receipts and calculators and spreadsheets. Just let FreshBooks take your business to the next level. Huge fan. 120 countries, millions of small business owners like me. Great customer service from their Toronto-based team. Phone, email, live chat. You'll get a quick response no matter what. If you're looking for something that always lets you have your finger on the pulse of your business, and you need that, by the way, freshbooks.com/techguy. And if you would do me a favor, I thank FreshBooks so much for supporting the Tech Guy podcast. You can do the same by just put the Tech Guy in that How Did You Hear About Us box. By the way, you get 30 days free. Try it to see. Believe me, I did it for 1 week. I said, this is it. I'm a FreshBooks customer for life. Freshbooks.com/techguy. Use the phrase the Tech Guy, and you'll get 30 days free. Thank you, FreshBooks. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Lots to talk about. Technology's permeated every corner of our lives, from our microwaves to our TVs, from our cars. This is what we talk about. Using technology to make your life better. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 8888 Ask Leo. Line 4, Alex, Rancho Cucamonga. Hello, Alex.
How are you, Leo?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, and what would we do without you? Because before I tell my story, I've been to the end. I've made calls. I spent hours. I've made phone calls and personal visits. And I listen to you all the time, and you always get right to the answer. Thank you very much. And wow.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. You know, my feeling is we're all in this together. The companies don't do a very good job of helping us use their technology. And so we got to do it for ourselves.
And I'm trying to learn. And being a geek, I'm not very I like being geeky, but I'm not like a computer scientist, you know?
Yeah. And even if you are, let me tell you, some of the least tech savvy people I know are computer scientists. That doesn't help. Doesn't help when you're trying to figure out how to pair your Bluetooth earbuds to your phone. There's no computer science there. What can I do to make your life better? What can I do to help you, Alex?
I have Verizon. I have a Note 8. And being geeky, I keep track of the OS over-the-air updates, and I have 20 so far.
As you should. That's an important thing, yeah.
I take screenshots and then save them. So anyway, I have all this stuff and 20 of them. Back in June, it happened again, and the funny thing happened was it's trying to get people to understand, like I called Verizon, I went to the Samsung Experience store at Best Buy, and trying to document this and say, hey, this really happened. But anyway, a bunch of programs were deleted. Like my phone does not have the ability to even play music anymore.
What?
There's no voice. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's screwed up. That's not supposed to happen. That's not good.
I know, and trying to make people believe it.
Were you using the Samsung? You weren't using Samsung's Milk Music app, were you?
No, but whatever it was,
they got out of that business. So it is conceivable with an older Samsung phone that an update might have disabled some of the Samsung apps that they've let go. Just, Google does it too. Samsung got out of the music business. But if that's not what you're using, then I think something went wrong with the phone. So, and you know what? Any operating system update can do this. So let me kind of explain what's going on and make some suggestions. First of all, there's two kinds of updates. This is true for Windows. It's true for smartphones. It's true for Android. There's security patches. Those you have to have. On Android, Google puts out security updates monthly. So there's an August update. There's a September update. In a few weeks, we'll get an October update. It's kind of like Microsoft puts out those Patch Tuesday updates every month. Those are important. Those are security patches. They fix problems that could let a bad guy take advantage of you. So you really want those. What you care less about is the feature updates. Microsoft does these twice a year. We're now getting the second half of 2019 update, 1909. We got the spring update, 1903 in May. Every 6 months or so, Microsoft does that. Android pretty much keeps the features update to the yearly release of the next version. So we're just starting to get Android 10. Android 9, its predecessor, sometimes called Pie, is probably on most recent phones. Your Note 8 may not have gotten to Pie yet. Now, and here's the key on this. While security patches are important, the Android updates are less so. They're more about features. But you said a bad word in the middle there. You said Verizon. And this is an important thing to remember. It's kind of a 3-step process before you'll get updates, either security patches or big Android updates on your phone. There's 3 people involved. There's Google, which finds the flaws, decides what new features to add. Google just put out Android 10. That's one. But then it has to go to the phone manufacturer to make sure it doesn't break anything. Samsung has to go, okay, let's see what Google's doing now and test it. They have to fix it. They have to modify it because remember, your Samsung phone doesn't have what we call a stock Android interface. It has you're a TouchWiz, which is Samsung's own. Now they call it One UI, but you're probably back in the TouchWiz UI. So Samsung has to adapt it to make it work with TouchWiz, and then because the update's going to come in over your carrier's network over Verizon, Verizon has to look at it, make sure it doesn't break anything Verizon's doing. And there's one more little bit of information there. Verizon pays for the Android version updates from 9 to 10, from 8 to 9. That comes out of their pocket. Google pays for the bandwidth on patches. In theory, you'd think, well, Verizon just passed those Google patches through. But no, everybody has to touch it. Everybody has to check it. Everybody has to make sure it's okay. So the farther away your phone is from Google, the longer it's going to take for you to get these. And this is the biggest problem in Android is companies do not want to update the major updates, the feature updates from 8 to 9 and 9 to 10. That one, because it costs some money, it's a big update. There's a lot of stuff they have to check. Those often you don't get. Your Samsung Note 8 probably will not get 10. It's kind of up to Samsung. That's who it's up to, Samsung. It might get 9. You may be on 9 now. You may still be on Android 8 or earlier. The vast majority of Android phones are not getting updated. There's a significant percentage of out there that's still running Android 4 or 5, which is really problematic. They can't run the current security patches. So you see how complicated this is. It's so different. In the iPhone sphere, Apple controls it, period. When Apple pushes out an update, the carriers have to take it no matter what. That's their deal with Apple. So most Apple users have updated phones. Unless you explicitly say no or your phone is so old it can't be updated, it's just kind of automatic. Most Android users, completely the opposite. They don't have up-to-date phones. Now, that's just the background on updates. To your specific issue, it sounds like something went wrong. Whenever you're doing an operating system update, things can go wrong. My strong suggestion is you have Samsung backup. That's, if you have a Samsung account, they give you some gigabytes of backup. You have Google backup because your Google account is associated with that phone. Turn on that backup. Let the phone back up so you don't lose any data. And then erase it and start over. It will start over with the update that you've most recently got, and it should fix any issues. I think you have issues that update did something to you. Now, I'll tell you, I'm looking at a Google phone. These are the Pixel phones are the most up to date because there's nobody in between Google. This is running on Google's Fi network. It's a Google manufactured phone. There's nobody in between Google and me. And I have Android version 10, security patch level September 5th. That's the current most recent. And it is one strong case for getting a Google phone running on the Fi network is that one's for sure going to be the most up to date if you get modern Google phones. My guess is there's something just went wrong with that Note 8. And as phones get older, just like any computer, issues happen. Hard drives kind of start to get flaky. Data might have been lost. So go into your phone settings, reset the phone. It's under the system settings. Reset, erase all data, factory reset, start from scratch, see if that fixes the problem. That's your best bet. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The system doesn't get backed up, Dr. Mom. Just information about what apps you have installed and any passwords and data you have. But the system starts from scratch if you wipe it. If you erase all data, factory reset. All right. Magic Michael Cozio, Lady Laura, thank you for being our musical directors today. I think next week, Lady Laura going to be on her own. That should be fun. Thanks also to Kim Schaffer. She's back from Bali and answered the phones. Thank you, Kim. Good job. Thanks to all of you for being here, too. Tech Guy Show every week right here. Next week, I'll have that iPhone. What is it called? The 11 Flow Max. I'll have it. and I'll have taken some pictures, and I'll have I'll have a report for you. I've only had it for a day by then, but I'll have a report for you. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Don't forget at the end of the show that the website is live all week long, and so you can get answers to any of your questions there. TechGuyLabs.com. That's free. There's no sign up. It's just easy. You just walk right in, sit right down. There's the website itself is divided into shows. This is episode 1627. How did we get to that many shows? Wow. That seems like an awful lot. 15 years of shows there. 1,627. Then each show is divided into 3 hours. There's 3 hours to the show. So you can go to hour 1, 2, or 3. And then each hour is divided up into blocks, questions or segments or whatever. And you can go right to the part you want. You can even listen to, after the show, or watch the question, read the text answer. And most importantly, you can add your thoughts. Your comments are really valuable. The site is free. We'll always be there. And I think, it's nice to have, if you think I said something wrong or you got a better idea, maybe you launched a weather balloon and you got a better idea, put it in the show notes, techguylabs.com. Your comments are welcome. Dr. Mom in our chat room at irc.twit.tv did say an important thing maybe for our last caller who was having trouble. His music app stopped working after he did an update on his Samsung Galaxy Note 8. She said, and I had suggested before you wipe the phone, which is probably the best thing to do. You should do that. I do that every year or so with any computer, at least, maybe more often. Just start it fresh, do a clean install, and you can do that with an Android phone. I had suggested back up before you do it. I still suggest that. Samsung and Google both will allow you to back up your phone data. But she does make a good point. If part of the reason the music isn't working anymore is because of corrupt data, maybe you don't want to restore. I think that's probably a good idea. Don't restore right away. You can restore at your leisure at another time. So maybe after you wipe the phone and reinstall, make sure everything's working. Your music's playing and the phone's working. Everything is working on there. It's up to date. Make sure you've run every update so you get to the latest version of whatever Note 8 will support. And if it's all working, at that point you can restore. And by the way, if at that point you restore and your data's, music stopped playing again, well, now we know at least it's the data. You can clear that data cache without resetting the phone, and everything should be well. Line 2, Barb, Rancho Mirage, California. Hello, Barb.
Hi, Leo.
Thanks.
How are you?
Thanks for hanging on so long. I'm well.
Well, it's for my grandson.
Oh, you're such a good grandma. What can I do for you and him?
He is a senior in high school this year, but he's an excellent student and has been taking college courses. And by the time he graduates, he will almost be a sophomore in college.
Holy cow. He's a whiz kid. That's nice.
Yeah. And, he's thinking pre-med.
Good.
And he needs a new computer bad.
So does he know what college he's going to be going to?
Oh, my God. He's been interviewing at so many.
Okay. So he doesn't know yet.
Grabbing at him like crazy.
Good. That's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll tie that in. If he's got a scholarship package, sometimes they'll tie that hardware into his scholarship package. But
well, he needs it now.
Yeah, he needs it now. I understand. So normally, if you knew a college, I would say, well, contact the college and find out, what they recommend. They often have student discounts, that kind of thing. But since he needs it now, one thing to ask him, he's got to be careful with geeks especially, because you don't want to see his face fall. Oh, you got me a Chromebook. Isn't that nice?
That's why I'm calling you.
Yeah, but I don't know either, because I don't know. So you might ask him. First question is, of course, always Windows or Mac. If he's going pre-med, do you know what he uses now?
Windows.
I'm thinking if he's going pre-med, Windows probably still. Not my favorite operating system. I really think of Windows as a business machine. Yeah. But on the and computer scientists, programmers, far prefer the Mac because it's based on a Unix operating system, so it's got a command line.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
You would recommend the Mac?
Well, I would, but I don't know your grandson.
Okay.
So you can. I mean, do you want to surprise him, or is it okay to talk?
No. His dad and I are going in on this, and
Good. Isn't that? Oh, you guys are great. I'm sure he's very grateful. And he may even just say, whatever you get, I'll be thrilled. And that's probably true. I would look at a Mac. Now, there are choices in the Mac world between ultralight and less powerful and heavier and more powerful. I think I'll give you two choices. Okay. For a laptop computer for a student, I love the MacBook Air because it's so thin and light. The MacBook Air. Not super expensive either. It's not super powerful either, but I think it's for writing papers, for doing research. It's what I use day in, day out. It's my preferred portable Mac.
Okay.
If he wants a desktop computer and he wants Windows, I just bought, and I couldn't be happier, and it's the ideal computer for a dorm. Is he going to stay in the dorms or stay at home, live at home?
I believe he's going to be in dorms.
So I really like for a dorm computer because it can double as your music system, your TV set. It can do everything you want. Lenovo makes an all-in-one desktop computer. I think it'd be the best student computer ever.
A desktop?
Yes, it's a desktop. And, that's not a bad thing. You keep it in the dorm room. You don't, it's not going to get stolen that way, or it's less likely to get stolen. And you can have a bigger screen. And see, sometimes if you're doing work, having a bigger screen is a big deal. So the one I like, and I actually just bought it, and I think the price is very good for what you get. It's called the Lenovo A940. It's an all-in-one. A940.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's got a tilting display. It would be good for a dorm room because you could watch movies on it. It's a big 27-inch screen. It's got a good sound system, so fine for music. It's got a built-in wireless charger for his phone. It has a mouse, but it also has a pen. And I think there's, a lot of reasons to get a pen. He may end up, after he starts class next September, he may end up saying, what I really need is a desktop in my dorm room for music, TV, homework, papers, something I can really, use, and then something like an iPad to take to class to take notes. I see a lot of pre-med students doing anatomy and stuff, taking notes on the iPad with the pencil, drawing and sketching. So that may be something that you can defer down the road till he's actually in school, and then he'll know better how he wants to use it. So if it's if he wants a laptop, he needs something thin and light. He probably has a laptop now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beat up old Windows laptop. I think a beautiful MacBook Air would be nice. What I would do, Barb, I would take him to the Apple store and show him the choices. And I think that he will like the lightness, but he may say, well, no, Grandma, I really want a more powerful machine. If he can wait, I think Apple's going to announce a new MacBook Pro, a very powerful, probably expensive, high-end MacBook portable next month. It'll be a 16-inch MacBook Pro, but that may be very pricey. Whatever you do, don't get him a gaming machine because he's got to do his homework.
Yes.
Right?
He's good at that.
No, I'm not worried. He sounds like he's a great student. I think so those are my two favorite right now, and I own both of them. The Yoga A940 from Lenovo is a great all-in-one desktop, perfect for a dorm room. For portability, I really love the MacBook Air.
Okay. Now, if he doesn't want a Mac and he wants a laptop, what would you recommend? In
2 weeks, Microsoft's going to announce the new Surface Pro, and I think that's going to be a very good choice. But if not, any Lenovo ThinkPad, these ThinkPads are bulletproof. They're the toughest computers ever made. Highly recommend them as well. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. You're a great grandma. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Can we do this again next week? Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.